In the meantime, I want to welcome Michelle and Randy Rosado to the Teddy Smith Show live here at WPAT New York City. How are you tonight, Michelle and Randy?
Hi, how are you, Teddy?
Hey, Teddy, nice to talk to you again.
Well, nice to have you here. It's a pleasure. Yeah, you know, your book is out there, and you have a wonderful website, and you have wonderful ideas, and you've been on, many shows and so forth. What do you like most about going on these shows? Do you find it interesting, unique, different, special? Do you have a thought about that?
Well, I think any opportunity to be able to spread a positive message to a new audience or to inspire people to better themselves and to go after their dreams without limitations is what encourages us to do different venues. Michelle may have thoughts.
And also the fact, like Randy said, presenting to new audiences in different ways helps them inspire themselves to find out what their destiny is and how they can pursue it.
And your book, of course, is called, for those who don't know, Pursuing Your Destiny. And you can find your book online and also on Amazon.com, I believe. Michelle and Randy, what inspired you to write this wonderful book?
Well, we had gone through a lot of things in our life before we met each other, of course, with Michelle's 9/11 story and how that brought us together, as well as the ups and downs of marriages and business and all the things that we were able to overcome. And we just wanted to share those stories with people so they felt like anyone that could relate could overcome their own situation, their own version of 9/11 or their own version of domestic abuse and some of the topics that we talked about. Of
course. And as the late Christopher Reeve said, nothing is impossible. Do you agree?
Absolutely. We were listening to Mr. Reeve's interview, and it was such a bittersweet time when he overcome probably the most tragic thing in his life, and he was able to still be alert enough to speak with you and also to write an incredible book. I actually read an excerpt of it when it did come out, and that's pretty much similar to how we came about writing it, because we were inspired by something within us, tragically between us, or something that could enable us to write this kind of book to overcome adversity in ourselves, in our own lives.
Right. What are some of the chapters that you may want to share with our great audience tonight here at WPAT? Some of the stories that you may want to leave us with tonight, if one or two. I know there's many, but if you could just tell us a little bit about some of them.
Sure. Well, I think the first chapter is really the only chapter that gets into the 9/11 story, but it's just so incredibly written. Michelle wrote the chapter, and it basically, you feel like you're right there with her as you're reading. You feel like you're visualizing it. So that's really an exciting chapter. It's tough to read for those of us who remember what it felt like that day, but at the same time, it's inspiring to see how Michelle had overcome and how people can just be as bad as things can be. There are just still angels out there to look out for us and to help us along our journey. So I think the first chapter is just exciting, and there's some both of us in the chapters about our childhood really lay it all on the line. The good, the bad, the ugly, and not because we feel proud of that or we wanted to do it for ourselves. It's all about, once again, the overcoming of ego and the things that help us find peace within ourselves.
Michelle, where were you on 9/11?
I was in my office on the 95th floor of Tower 2 when the first plane crashed into Tower 1. And I was fortunate enough to be able to take one of the last elevators before the second plane crashed into Tower 2.
What was your first reaction when you saw all of this? Obviously, you were in shock. That's without saying, of course. What else?
The first thing that I thought was I actually felt the energy from the plane as it crashed into Tower 1. And when the glass in the office windows shattered when the first plane hit, my first reaction was to find out what was going on. But the main reaction was just to get out of there as fast as I could. And that's really, the story came about with an article that I had written just a few weeks after September 11th called Will I Recover? And that idea, it evolved into the story behind the book, but obviously it's not the whole story, but just the tragedy changed so many people's lives and so many people's perceptions of what that day was like. And what we wanted to convey was a personal experience that it was part of American history, but it was not going to be the part of a whole life's history.
Well, I just want to read a little something from your book. Pursuing Your Destiny. How to Overcome Adversity and Achieve Your Dreams is the touching story about 9/11 survivor Michelle Rosado's heroic escape from the World Trade Center into the life that she never dreamed she could have. Together with her husband Randy, they share the experiences of their chance meeting that brought these two souls together to create one life they share. Be ready for an exciting journey that begins on September 11th, 2001, and takes you through their childhood, their chance meeting leading to their 2003 wedding, finding business ownership, and most importantly, finding themselves. You will be truly inspired by their continued growth and awareness, even through the most difficult obstacles that life has presented. Discovering their natural abilities to write and speak, the Rosados spread their message of love, hope, strength, persistence, and determination to the world. Their unique and powerful writing style complements each other with a vividness that will make you feel like you are sitting through a motion picture when you read. Tell us a little more about what I just read, if you could. Michelle and Randy.
Well, excuse me, Teddy. I think that sums it up, at least from the reviews we've gotten from a lot of readers. I think the book was written almost like a movie, and type of movie where it starts out with a major event and then it brings you back in time, and there's kind of two different situations going on, where you're learning about Michelle's upbringing in teenage years and professional years, as well as my own, and how we come together. So it's, it was kind of written like that, where it was very visual, and fortunately we were blessed to have some great, copy editors and people in our corner. But, initially we were not writing as descriptively, and then it just kind of evolved into something where we, wanted to make it more movie-like.
Michelle, a negative mind will never give you a positive life. You agree?
Absolutely. When we are in our present moment, but we are still thinking negative thoughts, those negative thoughts actually come from a defensive self, which many of us could call ego. A positive life cannot be lived with attachment to a negative mind. It would never make sense to actually live like that. So if we not only live a positive life by doing things that make us happy, but by doing positive things for others and thinking of others, that detaches ourselves with that negative mind, and that's what gives us the life that we deserve.
What else inspired you, Michelle and Randy, to write this book?
Well, actually, it came from a vision I had in the middle of the night. Michelle and I were both in bed sick from food poisoning, I guess back in 2008 or 2007. And I just had this weird vision of the book, and I started thinking about our stories and all the things we had gone through, and, to the point where we almost, lost our marriage and had to grow as people to recover that and become even stronger as a unit. So it was kind of, coming to kind of being at a better place with ourselves and, just kind of getting that vision, which gave us the initial kickstart.
How did you start writing the book?
We started writing it. We thought we had written the book probably in a couple of weeks. We had the ideas and we wrote the chapters, and we gave it to our first copy editor, and she said, "You need a whole lot more content. You're not being descriptive enough." And then it became, from 2008, we had put the initial manuscript together, but what had happened was we had grown as people through more life experience. And we found, I mean, looking back, we said, who are we writing this book for? We there was a lot of ego. There was a lot of things where, as you grow, you look back and say, there's no place for this. So we ended up scratching everything in 2011 and pretty much starting it from scratch, and probably did it in about 3 months. So it was 3 years in total, but it was still an evolution of ourselves, which ended up producing the final product.
Michelle, which part of the book was your favorite? Do you have one specific part or not?
I think every chapter brought me closer to who I was, but I think my favorite part of the book was when I encountered what most people would call an earth angel. And I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it was an encounter that I will never forget, because it made me understand that none of us are really alone on this earth. We all have a presence, not only within us, but around us, that keeps us safe. And if we are in danger of some sort, they are there, even though if we're hurt, they're always present within us. And that's really what my favorite part of the book was.
And what was the hardest part in this book? Was there a certain part that was harder to write than other parts, or not?
Well, for me, there were certain things that I wanted to share with the world, but was hesitant because they were so personal that I never even told my immediate family some of the things that I would share in the book. So when we were writing it, I was reluctant. I struggled with it, but there were definitely dark times in my life, in my teenage years, that I will not ever forget, nor will I regret, because those are lessons that I had to learn in order to be stronger and be more present in my own life.
What are your favorite authors and books, Michelle and Randy?
Well, there's a combination. I know Michelle likes Eckhart
Tolle is my favorite.
One of my favorite authors is Thich. He's just known by Thich. He's a Vietnamese Buddhist who has just tons of books out there, and he's very inspirational. And Zig Ziglar, and just books on motivation, but also good stories.
Now, what advice do you have for us, someone who wants to get started, and what does it take, in your opinion, to become a best-selling author?
I think one of the first things you have to know within yourself is you make that decision. You decide at that time that you want your story to be shared with the world, and your intention is what's going to start it all. It's not going to be doubt or fear. And when you have that idea, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask people who have been in the business, other authors, because it's a very beautiful journey to be an author. But it also takes, like I said, a lot of discipline, a lot of hard work, and a lot of just knowing what you want.
And what is it? Go ahead, Randy.
No, I was going to say, to add on that, Teddy, we were fortunate because we were approached early on when the word had been out that we were in the process of writing the book, and we had some news coverage. And we were approached by someone who knew a best-selling author who was a publishing coach, and he actually, we hired him, and that's how we really, had a lot of the fundamentals from how to write a title for the book, how to do certain layouts. So having that coaching helped, because there are some things that we would never have known about. And he was also the person who put us in touch with the copy editor and the cover designer and a lot of the resources we needed to put it all together. So it's always good to work with someone who's done it.
So if we're going to sum up this interview now, how would we like to do this, Michelle and Randy? What would be the best way to tell our audience not only where they can buy your book, how to get the book, and your website you could tell us about, but what kind of answer or, what would you like to leave us with tonight?
Well, for me, just any adversity or any obstacle that you may face in life, don't ever forget that adversity is somehow linked to what you are going to learn and what you're going to be stronger from in this lifetime.
Fabulous. And you have a great website. Tell us where they can go to see your book or order your book or share your book or anything else you want to do?
Great. Well, it can be found on Amazon as well as the book website, pursuingyourdestiny.com. And from there, the link to Amazon is there, and it's available in softcover as well as Kindle and pretty much all of the other versions out there.
Thank you. This show, by the way, if you didn't know, will be repeated tomorrow morning at 3 a.m. And we have a great audience here that's up all night here all over the world on WPAT 930am.com. So I hope you listen in wherever you are around the world, WPAT 930am.com, tomorrow morning, Saturday morning at 3 a.m. And then love to have you on some of our overnight shows soon, Michelle and Randy. Would love to have you.
Yeah, that would be great.
Definitely.
Set it up through Kenny Lupo. Thanks, Kenny Lupo.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny.
Thanks, Kenny.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right, Kenny.